You're listening to the Top One English Plus podcast.
It has been a heavy week,
Yeah.
I think, for anyone who loves comedy or film or just joy, honestly.
Yeah.
The last few days have felt significantly dimmer. We often talk about legends in this industry, and I mean, the word gets thrown around so casually that it almost loses its edge.
Mm-hmm.
But this week, I think we are all feeling the full weight of that word.
It feels different, doesn't it? It feels so personal.
It really does.
It's one of those losses where the grief isn't just about a celebrity passing. It's about a specific color, disappearing from the spectrum.
That is a beautiful way to put it. For those of you who might have been disconnected from the news cycle or maybe just avoiding it because, frankly, it's just too sad.
Yeah, who could blame you?
Right. We were talking about the news that broke last Friday, January 30th, 2026. Catherine O'Hara has passed away.
71 years old. It happened in Los Angeles following what the family and the reports are describing as a brief illness.
And the reaction has been just massive.
It's remarkably widespread. Usually when a star passes, you see a specific demographic mourning. But with O'Hara, it's everyone. You have the boomers who stayed up late watching SCTV, the millennials like me who are both traumatized and delighted by Home Alone,
Yeah.
and then you have the Gen Z crowd who practically built a religion around Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek.
It's that collective shock that really got me. I mean, you scroll through social media, and usually it's a cacophony of arguments and just noise. But this weekend, it was united. It was just a wall of love and reaction gifs and genuine heartbreak. And that's really what we want to do today. The mission of this deep dive isn't just to, read an obituary.
Yeah.
We can all read the headlines. We want to do something a little different.
We want to look at the architecture of her comedy because when you look at the stack of sources we have, from the tributes by Eugene Levy and Martin Short to those really deep-cut interviews she did with The New Yorker, El Canada, and People magazine right before she passed, you start to see a very specific blueprint. You see how she constructed characters that were completely absurd, yet somehow deeply, deeply human.
That is the magic trick, isn't it? How do you play a woman who screams Kevin at the top of her lungs, or a washed-up soap star with an accent that defies geography and make us feel like we know them?
Right.
We're going to unpack the stories behind those characters. We're going to talk about the woman who valued being a mother above all the accolades. And honestly, we're just going to celebrate a cultural trailblazer.
Trailblazer's the right word, but not in the way it's usually used. She didn't just blaze a trail. It's like she walked off the path entirely and built her own house in the woods.
I love that.
And we have a lot of material to get through. We've got the obituaries from Variety and the Economic Times, these really touching tributes from her lifelong colleagues, and some fascinating fan discussions from Reddit that really highlight how she influenced, fashion and pop culture.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning. Because to understand the genius of Catherine O'Hara, you can't start in Hollywood. You have to go to Toronto, specifically mid-century Toronto.
Toronto in the 1950s. Catherine Ann O'Hara was born there on March 4th, 1954. And if you're looking for the origin story of her chaotic, vibrant energy, you just have to look at her dinner table.
Right.
She was the second youngest of 7 children in a large Catholic family.
7 kids. I mean, that's not a family, that's an ensemble cast.
It is. And in an environment like that, volume is survival. But it wasn't just about being loud.
No.
From the interviews she's given, particularly one with People magazine just a couple of years ago in 2024, she described the O'Hara household as a comedy boot camp.
A comedy boot camp. I love that.
It wasn't just that they laughed, it was that being funny was highly encouraged. It was the currency of the household. If you wanted the floor, you had to be entertaining.
And I love the details about her mother, Margaret Ann. She wasn't in show business. I think she was a real estate agent later in life. But she sounds like the first character Catherine ever studied.
Absolutely. Apparently, Margaret Ann would come home and just imitate the people she met during the day.
Just drop the bags and start performing.
Right, and not just mocking them, but inhabiting them. Catherine talked about watching her mother suddenly become the butcher or a difficult client. That's where the seed was planted. The idea that you can slip into someone else's skin just to make the people you love laugh.
Wow.
But there's another connection here that I think is absolutely vital to understanding her trajectory, and it involves another comedy legend who often gets sort of left out of the O'Hara narrative.
This is one of those facts that just blew my mind when we were digging through the stack.
Right.
Her brother, Marcus O'Hara, dated Gilda Radner.
Gilda Radner. This is before Saturday Night Live, before she was a global icon. Gilda was dating Catherine's brother and would hang out at the O'Hara house.
Can you even imagine?
I can't. Catherine was still a teenager, just totally impressionable, watching this force of nature in her living room.
You're sitting on the carpet, and Gilda Radner is there teaching you improv games. It's like a dream.
It's incredible. And Catherine cited Gilda as a major influence, but it wasn't just about the comedy techniques, it was the humanity. She saw this woman who was lovely and vulnerable and completely unaffected by her own talent. It set a template for Catherine. It taught her that you can be a genius and still be a kind person.
Right. You don't have to be the tortured artist.
Or you'd be the generous artist. Exactly.
So she has this foundation. She graduates from Burnthorpe Collegiate Institute, and she decides to give comedy a real shot. But it wasn't a straight line to stardom. She didn't just walk onto a set.
No.
She started at the literal bottom.
The very bottom. 1974, the Second City Theater in Toronto. She wasn't on stage. She was a waitress.
Serving watered-down gin and tonics to the audience.
Exactly. While watching the main cast perform, just absorbing it all from the sidelines.
There is something so poetic about that. Studying the craft from the shadows. And there's this famous story about her audition, right?
Oh, it's a great story.
She finally gets up the nerve to audition for the troupe, and Joe Flaherty, who later became her co-star on SCTV and played the terrifying Count Floyd, he watched her and basically told her to keep her day job.
He literally told her to keep waitressing, which is just hilarious in hindsight. But this is where you see that grit. She didn't crumble. She didn't say, oh, well, I guess I'm not funny. She persisted. She auditioned again, and eventually she made the cast.
And that leads us to 1976 and the launch of Second City Television, or SCTV.
Yeah.
We have to spend some real time here, because I feel like SCTV is often described as the Canadian SNL, and that is just... it's insulting, frankly.
It's a totally reductive comparison. SNL was a variety show. You had sketches, musical guests, a live audience. SCTV was a concept album.
That's a great way to put it.
The whole premise was that you were watching a low-budget TV station in a fictional town called Melonville.
Yes,
Melonville. The sketches weren't just sketches. They were shows on this network. It was meta before meta was cool.
It really was.
And because they didn't have the pressure of a live audience, the comedy was just weirder. It was more specific.
And Catherine was the utility player who could do anything. She wasn't just the girl in the sketch. She was the monster, the siren, the washed-up star.
She was a total chameleon. And this is where she developed her philosophy on comedy. She told The New Yorker in 2019 something that I think explains her entire career.
I know what you're going to say.
She said, when in doubt, play insane.
When in doubt, play insane. It sounds like a bumper sticker, but when you actually apply it to acting, it's profound.
It really is. And let's be clear, she didn't mean act random or just make funny noises.
No, it was deeper than that.
She explained that when you play a character who is insane or, delusional, you don't have to justify their logic. You bypass rationality and access pure creativity.
Right.
If the character believes they are the Queen of England, you don't have to explain why. You just have to play the Queen. It frees you to make choices that a grounded actor would never make.
That explains characters like Lola Heatherton. God, Lola Heatherton.
The quintessential O'Hara character from that era. Lola was this daytime TV entertainer who was always just on the verge of a complete nervous breakdown.
The terrifyingly wide smile, the way she would sweat.
Yes, the way she would laugh a little too loud at nothing. I love you. I want to bury your children.
That catchphrase. It was just so desperate.
Exactly. It was desperation masked as enthusiasm. And that's the genius of it. A lesser comedian would just play Lola as bad or annoying. Catherine played her as someone who needed you to love her so she wouldn't crumble into dust. That's the insane part, the delusion that if she just smiles big enough, everything will be okay.
And she also did these incredible impersonations. Her Meryl Streep, her Katharine Hepburn, they weren't just caricatures, they were surgical.
Her Meryl Streep was dangerous. She played Streep not as a great actress, but as someone who was trying to be a regular person and just failing because she was too intense.
That is so specific.
It was a critique of celebrity itself. And she was doing this alongside titans. I mean, right. Eugene Levy, John Candy, Martin Short, Andrea Martin, they were her comedy family.
Right.
And that loyalty to her family is actually the subject of a really fascinating what-if moment in her career that I think a lot of people forget.
I was shocked by this when I read it.
Yeah.
So in 1981, SCTV is in a bit of a limbo regarding their network deal.
It is.
And Saturday Night Live comes calling.
Dick Ebersol cast her for season 6 of SNL. This is the dream, right? This is the ticket to American fame. This is what every comedian in the 80s wanted.
Absolutely. So she accepts, she packs her bag, she goes to New York, she's there for 1 week.
1 week.
And she quits.
She quits without ever filming a single sketch.
Why? I mean, who walks away from SNL?
Someone who values her people more than her resume, that's who. She got word that SCTV had been picked up again by the network in Canada, and she realized she didn't want to be in the Shark Tank of New York. She wanted to be in the sandbox with her friends. She told People magazine, basically, I said, oh, sorry, I gotta go be with my comedy family.
That is wild. It speaks to a certain confidence, or maybe just a clarity of values.
I think it's values.
She chose comfort, collaboration, and loyalty over the bigger platform.
And the irony of ironies is that staying with SCTV allowed her to develop the very characters that eventually caught the eye of Hollywood directors anyway.
That's a great point.
If she had stayed at SNL, she might have been pigeonholed. At SCTV, she was allowed to be weird, and weird is what got her noticed by Tim Burton.
Which brings us to the late 80s. She makes the jump to film, and she lands a role in Beetlejuice.
1988, Delia Deetz.
The stepmother from hell. The sculptor who makes those terrifying art pieces that look like giant shrimp claws.
But again, apply the play insane philosophy. Delia Deetz is a woman who is completely detached from reality. She moves into a haunted house in the country and doesn't see ghosts. She sees an aesthetic opportunity. She sees a renovation project.
Right. This is my art, and it is dangerous.
O'Hara played her with this high-strung, neurotic energy that made her the perfect foil to the gothic atmosphere.
The dinner party scene, the Deo scene.
It's iconic. But watch her face in that scene. She isn't just possessed. She's fighting it, but she's also kind of performing it.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's a moment where she grabs the shrimp cocktail and laughs, and it's terrifying. She turned a supporting role into the most memorable human character in the movie.
And Beetlejuice isn't just important for her career, it's crucial for her personal life. This is where she met her husband, Bo Welch.
That's right. Bo Welch was the production designer on the film. He designed all those crazy sets.
And this is such a sweet story that O'Hara shared in interviews later in life, because it shows that even comedy legends get shy. She admitted she had a huge crush on him during filming. She said he was very attractive and quiet. They would talk all the time on set, but he just wouldn't ask her out.
I love that. Catherine O'Hara, this force of nature who could play these loud, brash women, was too shy to make the first move.
So what did she do? She used the chain of command.
She went to Tim Burton. She literally complained to the director. She told him, Bo Welch talks to me every day, but never asks me out.
That's amazing.
So Burton, playing the unlikely matchmaker, nudged Welch. He basically told him, ask her out for God's sake.
And their first date?
A crew trip to a swap meet.
A swap meet. That is so unpretentious.
It's perfect. It's searching for treasures in a pile of junk, which is kind of a metaphor for their creative lives, you know?
That's beautiful.
They were married in 1992 and stayed together until her death, more than 30 years. In Hollywood years, that's astonishing.
It's an eternity. And there's a story O'Hara told about a wedding gift Tim Burton gave them that I think captures their dynamic perfectly. It was not a blender.
No, not a blender. Burton arranged a private tour of Vatican for them.
Which sounds fancy, right?
Very fancy.
But somehow, and O'Hara swore she didn't know how Burton pulled this off. The priest giving the tour took them everywhere. And I mean everywhere.
Okay.
O'Hara said he took them to the Pope's closet.
The Pope's closet? I can't even picture what that looks like.
Rows of vestments, apparently. And the priest actually let them handle the vestments and pretend to put crowns in Bo Welch's backpack.
Get out of here.
Seriously. Just the image of them giggling in the Vatican, pretending to steal the Pope's crown, it shows that shared sense of humor she always talked about. They were partners in mischief.
That's incredible.
It really is. So she's happily married. She's doing great character work. And then comes 1990, the role that, for a huge chunk of the planet, defines her. Kate McAllister in Home Alone.
America's Mom. It's interesting because on paper, that movie is a slapstick comedy about a kid fighting burglars with paint cans. But the emotional anchor of the film, the thing that keeps it from just being a cartoon, is Catherine O'Hara.
It really is. I mean, we all quote the Kevin scream on the airplane. It's meme history.
Yeah.
But when you rewatch that movie as an adult, her performance is actually harrowing.
That's the key. She grounded the absurdity. Think about the scene at the airport counter in Paris where she's trying to get a ticket home.
Oh, yeah.
She isn't doing comedy there. She is playing visceral maternal panic. She is a woman who would sell her soul to get back to her son.
Absolutely.
If she had played it as a joke, if she had winked at the audience, the movie just wouldn't work. The audience needs to believe the stakes are real, even if the bandits are getting hit with irons.
I read a great analysis in the source material that pointed out the physical choice she made during the Kevin scream. She doesn't just scream, she faints.
Yes.
But it's not a graceful movie faint. She locks her knees and goes down like a tree.
It's rigid. It's pure shock. It's a specific physical comedy choice that sells the horror of the realization.
Before we move on from Home Alone, I have to mention the code.
The camel code, of course.
Yes. In the Reddit threads we looked at, there is this whole subculture of fashion fans obsessed with Kate McAllister's wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
That camel coat with the velvet collar she wears through the airport is considered 90s mom fashion goals.
It's timeless. It signaled old money Chicago, but also warmth. It's interesting how she used costumes. In Beetlejuice, she's wearing these avant-garde gloves.
Right.
In Home Alone, it's the structured coat. She built her characters from the outside in as much as the inside out.
And there was a real-life parallel to Home Alone 2, wasn't there? She told a story about almost losing her own children.
She did years later on a subway in New York. The doors closed, and her kids weren't on yet, or vice versa. I believe she was on the platform and they were on the train.
Oh, my God.
And she screamed. She said everyone on the platform screamed with her. She knew that feeling. She wasn't faking that anxiety in Home Alone. It was tapped into a very primal fear.
Wow. So she conquers the blockbuster world with Home Alone. She could have just done mom roles for the rest of her life.
She easily could have.
But then, in the mid-90s, she pivots back to the weird. She starts a collaboration that, for comedy nerds, is probably her magnum opus. She teams up with Christopher Guest.
The mockumentaries. Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, A Mighty Win for your consideration. This was a return to her roots, but elevated. For those of you who don't know, these films are largely improvised. There is no script with dialogue.
None.
There is just an outline that says, scene 4, the characters discuss the show. Everything they say, they make it up on the spot.
Which is terrifying for most actors. I mean, usually you want the safety net of the words.
Yeah.
But for O'Hara, it was a playground. And she's back with her old pal, Eugene Levy.
They have a 50-year history of working together, and you see it in these films. They don't just have chemistry, they have telepathy.
Yeah.
In Best in Show, they play Cookie and Jerry Fleck. He's the guy with 2 left feet. Literally, he has a medical condition.
Right.
And she's the woman with a colorful romantic past who keeps running into her ex-lovers at the dog show.
That running gag. Every 10 minutes, some guy comes up and says, "Cookie, remember the time in the parking lot?" And Jerry is just standing there awkwardly smiling.
But notice how she plays it. She isn't ashamed. She's delightful. She treats every ex-lover like an old friend. It makes the character so lovable despite the promiscuous backstory.
And the physical comedy.
Oh, the physical comedy. Watch the way she walks next to Eugene Levy in that movie. She adjusts her stride to match his 2 left feet. It's a subtle, brilliant dance.
But the one that gets me, and I think the one that really shows her range, is A Mighty Win.
Yes.
They play Mitch and Mickey, this folk duo who had a bad breakup years ago and are reuniting for a concert.
This is such a crucial piece of work because it's not just funny, it's devastating.
It really is.
Mitch, played by Levy, has had a mental breakdown. Mickey, played by O'Hara, has moved on and is trying to live a normal life. The tension between them is so thick you can cut it.
Mm-hmm.
And the kicker, they actually wrote the songs.
A Kiss at the End of the Rainbow.
They wrote it and performed it live. And there is a moment in the film at the end of the song where Mitch goes in to kiss her. And the script or the outline didn't dictate exactly how that would go.
And her face.
The look in O'Hara's eyes, it's fear and love and regret and nostalgia all at once.
It is. It's funny because it's a spoof of folk music, but when they sing it, the parody just dissolves. You just see 2 broken people having a moment.
That's the O'Hara magic again. She thrived in these guest films because she could fully inhabit a character's delusion or pain.
Totally.
In Waiting for Guffman, she plays Sheila Albertson, a travel agent who thinks she's a star. There's a scene where she's drunk on a stool talking about aliens and being probed.
Oh my God, that scene.
It is rambling, incoherent, and absolutely hysterical because she plays it with total conviction. She never winks. She never lets you know she knows it's funny.
So we have the sketch comedy legend, we have the blockbuster movie mom, we have the improv queen of indie cinema. And then in 2015, she does something that introduces her to an entirely new generation. And she becomes Moira Rose.
Schitt's Creek. This was the second act renaissance. And what's fascinating is that Moira Rose wasn't just written on the page.
No.
She was constructed brick by Catherine O'Hara.
Designed is the right word. I mean, let's talk about the voice. That accent. It's a cultural artifact in itself.
It's the unplaceable accent. Linguists have actually tried to analyze it. It's got archaic vowels, weird stressors. O'Hara said she wanted to sound like a mix of Marilyn Monroe and Audrey Hepburn, but filtered through a person who was trying way too hard.
The Bay.
Exactly. But the why is what matters. Why does she talk like that? O'Hara saw Moira as someone who wanted to distance herself from her small-town roots. The accent was a suit of armor. It was a defense mechanism. If I speak like a 1940s movie star, maybe I won't feel like a bankrupt mother living in a motel.
It's like she was armoring herself with vowels and the vocabulary. Pettifogging, frippit, calipigian.
She kept a notebook. She told the writers Moira would not say sad, she would say bedeviled.
That is incredible.
She used dictionaries of obscure words to rewrite her dialogue because she wanted Moira to feel like she was educating the town of Schitt's Creek. She was elevating them against their will.
And we have to mention the wigs.
The wigs were her idea. She told Dan and Eugene Levy that Moira wouldn't have just one hairstyle. She's an actress. She plays roles.
Right.
The wigs were her emotional barometer. If she was feeling aggressive, she wore a sharp bob. If she was feeling soft, she wore long curls. It wasn't just fashion, it was character work.
And the world agreed. In 2020, she swept the awards. She won the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress.
It was a historic sweep for the show. And seeing her win, seeing the love for that character, I think it was a validation of her specific brand of genius. She took a character that could have been unlikable. I mean, let's be honest, Moira is selfish. She's out of touch. She doesn't know her daughter's middle name.
Right.
And she made us love her.
Fold in the cheese.
That scene, it's a masterclass in frustration. David, you just fold it in. It captures the mother-son dynamic so perfectly.
But what's interesting is that she didn't stop there. You know, sometimes when an actor has a massive hit late in their career, they just ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, they do the convention circuit.
Exactly. O'Hara kept working, and she kept taking risks.
That brings us to the final chapter, the years 2024 to 2026. She was everywhere. And she wasn't just playing Moira 2.0.
Not at all. She reprised Delia Deetz in Beetlejuice in 2024, which was a lovely bookend.
A perfect bookend.
But then she did something that shocked me. She joined the cast of The Last of Us.
Season 2, 2025. This is a gritty, violent, post-apocalyptic drama, not a laugh track in sight.
Right?
She played Gail Linden, a therapist surviving in Jackson who has sessions with Pedro Pascal's character, Joel.
Talk about a change of pace.
The critics were blown away, and it makes sense. If you can play the heightened emotion of comedy, you can play drama. Comedy is just drama with a different rhythm.
That's so true.
In those scenes with Pedro Pascal, she wasn't playing insane. She was playing quiet. She was listening. It showed that she didn't need the wigs or the accent to command a screen. She just needed her eyes.
And she was also doing comedy with Seth Rogen in the studio. She was working right up until the end. She never lost that hunger to create.
She was. But despite all that work, despite the Emmys and the Oscar buzz and the viral moments, there's one quote that resurfaced this week that I think defines her legacy better than any role.
I know exactly which one you mean. It was that clip where a fan asked her what roles she wants to be remembered for.
Right. You expect her to say Moira or Kate McAllister or maybe something from SCTV. It's a standard press junket question. But she stopped. She smiled that genuine O'Hara smile, and she said, "Mother of my children."
Mother of my children. It gets me every time.
And she meant it. She was notoriously private about her sons, Matthew and Luke. She kept them out of the spotlight while they were growing up.
She really did.
She didn't parade them on red carpets, but she always cited them as her greatest joy.
It connects back to her own upbringing, right? That tight-knit family unit in Toronto. She recreated that for her own kids.
She did, and you can see that love reflected in the tributes that have poured in, not just from her biological family, but her work family.
Oh, absolutely.
The way these people talk about her. It's not just professional respect, it's love.
Macaulay Culkin's tribute destroyed me. He wrote, "Mama, I thought we had time. I wanted to sit in a chair next to you."
It's heartbreaking. He viewed her as a surrogate mother figure. They had this bond that lasted 35 years.
Wow.
And Eugene Levy, her partner in comedy for 50 years, called the loss heartbreaking and said their friendship was a gift. Imagine that partnership. 50 years of making each other laugh.
It's incredible. And Pedro Pascal said, "There is less light in my world, this lucky world that had you.
And Seth Rogen, representing that younger generation of comedians, just said, we're all lucky we got to live in a world with her in it.
So what does this all mean? When we look at the span of her life, from the waitress at Second City to the queen of Schitt's Creek, what is the takeaway?
I think the synthesis here is about humanity. O'Hara had this unique talent for playing characters who were delusional, self-centered, or just plain insane.
Right.
Moira Rose, Delia Deetz, Lola Heatherton. But she played them with such love. She never judged her characters. She never looked down on them. She loved them. And because she loved them, we couldn't help but love them back.
She found the heart in the absurd.
Yeah.
She showed us that everyone, no matter how weird, is deserving of affection.
Precisely. And she did it while being the ultimate collaborator. She wasn't a star who demanded the spotlight. She was an improviser who wanted to play with others. She made everyone around her better.
The best listener in comedy.
That's it.
There's a quote of hers about humor that I think is so important. She said, "You're really lucky if your sense of humor is encouraged. It's a gift."
And that's the so what of this deep dive. Why does this loss hit so hard? Because she represented a specific kind of joy. A joy that was collaborative and kind and fiercely creative without being cynical. In a world that can be very cynical, very ironic, she was a beacon of play.
And that brings us to our closing thought. We talked about her philosophy. When in doubt, play insane.
It's a great rule for improv, but I really think it's a great rule for life, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In a world that demands we make perfect sense all the time, that demands we curate our image and say the right thing, maybe we should take a page from Catherine O'Hara's book. What would happen if we all dropped our guard just a little bit more? What would happen if we stopped trying to be normal and started trying to be joyful?
When in doubt, play insane. I think we could all use a little more of that energy.
Catherine O'Hara, thank you for the laughs, the tears, and for teaching us how to fold in the cheese. And to you listening, thanks for taking the deep dive with us.
Take care, everyone.